Welcome to the very first episode of Thinking of Quitting, a show for anyone wondering what else is out there when it comes to careers, on money, meaning, and making it work, where I ask people to get real with me about working alternative jobs outside the 9 to 5. Today, I'm talking to Sean about starting seasonal work in your late 20s, moving up the ranks from deckhand to expedition guide, finding queer community in the outdoors, and how to make seasonal work into a career. I'm Roxanne, and this is Thinking of Quitting. You're a seasonal worker, would you say?
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
Cool.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing that for?
We're coming on like 2.5 years now.
Okay.
Summer of 2022 is kind of when I started getting into the more seasonal vagabond lifestyle.
Okay. Can you just rapid list off what jobs you've had since then in the last 3 years?
Yeah. So there was the deckhand job in Maine. That was kind of my intro into seasonal work. And then after that was waiting tables at a ski lodge in Utah after that. And then that transitioned into another deckhand job in Alaska, which was great. And then that transitioned to me moving to Bend, Oregon and having to get a job at Target, which was a crazy little flip of time. And then after that, stayed in Bend for a little bit and had like a year-ish of stability and was just waiting tables, making good money. And then I currently just moved to Seattle and just kind of waiting tables and got another deckhand job for the winter. So I have a little bit of time off, and then I'll be doing shipyard work with this company that I've been stalking for like years.
Yeah, cool.
And it's very dream job vibes.
What does that mean, like shipyard work?
That's a great question. I'm not 100% sure what
Okay, cool.
it's going to entail, but it's going to be a lot of little projects and getting the boats ready for the spring and summer season. So to be like maintenance, maybe some painting, sanding things. That area isn't necessarily my wheelhouse when it comes to the kind of work I'm into, but it kind of needs to be part of my wheelhouse.
What kind of ships are they?
They're power boats, so they're kind of like mini cruise ships.
Okay, and that's what they're using them for, is like
yes.
cruises for...
Yeah, and it's very, and when I say cruise ships too, it's like a very intimate cruise. Like it can take about 60 to 80 guests and about 10 to 20 crew. Yeah.
So basically, like, your goal is to be on these ships guiding people, like taking them on expeditions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's definitely the goal in the next few years, to kind of mix my experience with hospitality and deckhanding and transition that into more expedition guiding kind of vibes. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that your idea is like you talk to them and you're gonna get in the door basically through like ship work, which we're gonna find out.
We're gonna find out what that looks like. Yeah.
But that's cool because it's like you're putting. I think a lot of people don't put themselves out there when they're like, I don't meet every single thing on the job list, right? But and your way that you got, or like, tell me about how you first heard about it /
got into
to
it.
apply.
Yeah. It's a great question. It is a cool little story. So I first found out about Uncruise when I was working on the boat in Alaska because they do their cruises around Southeast Alaska. So you have like brochures and stuff everywhere. And just the more research I did on the company, I was like, this is a really cool company to work for, and it's something I really want. But they were the primary catalyst for me moving to Seattle. And it's kind of crazy. I could have stayed in Bend and like maybe been a little bit more chill and not like depleted my whole savings moving to Seattle and whatnot. And I could have just applied online and called them and figured it out. But I was like, I'm just going to move to Seattle and just pester the shit out of them and we'll see what happens. And there was this one really cool night where I took a weird nap from like 4 to 7 and just like woke up groggy, and I like went to this bar to get some food. I was chatting with this woman, Julie, and she's like, you know me? She's like, oh, like what brought you to Seattle? I'm like, oh, I'm really trying to get a job with this company, Uncruise. And she was like, wait, Uncruise? It's like, yeah. She was like, I know the owner, like the CEO of this company. She's like, do you want me to link you up with him? I was like, yeah, that would be great. So now all of a sudden I'm like emailing with the CEO, and I had already applied, but he was able to sort of like expedite my application process, which was really cool. And normally they don't post the jobs for the next spring, summer season till around December, January.
I just started seeing them.
Yeah.
That company posting, and I was him and Sean's already like in there.
So it was really cool that I was able to like get the interviews in before all of that and just kind of jump ahead of the game a little bit.
That is a wild situation to be like, let alone that you were, thinking, I'm just gonna quit my life here and move there in the hopes that some random connection happens. And then it literally happened.
It literally happened within like 2 or 3 weeks of being there. I do love the like ripple effects of weird little choices and stuff. And like you just really don't know where the day will lead you sometimes.
Is that something you do often, or just like follow this idea that like, I should spend my savings and move to Seattle?
Yeah, it is something I do pretty often.
Does it usually work out? Or
for the most part, for the most part, I say that it does. Moving to Seattle, as time goes on and we're getting older, I feel like we can listen to our guts a lot better, and we're just much more thorough and instinctive with our choices, and I feel like too when I like kind of tell people about what I do, it's very like, very free spirit, hippy dippy, just like kind of going with the wind, and like I am, but it's also very calculated, and like there's goals and there's plans in mind, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that was something I actually like wrote down today to ask you about, was that I feel like when people hear about seasonal work or think about it, they think about it as like young people like just random shit, like not knowing what they're doing next, but so you have like dreams and a plan. What's your like long or next year or so plan with this?
The next year or so plan is actually really cool. I just got my working holiday visa for Australia approved, and so I'll be going there in October of 2025. So right now the master plan is to work the summer season with Uncruise and live on the boat with them until about September, October, and then basically just have no chill and go straight to Australia and try to find another deckhand job there for their summer. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. And is that like normal with seasonal work, would you say, where people are filling their seasons with different jobs? Like it is possible to fill that, or do people usually take time off and spend all their money?
Well, I feel you could really do whatever you want with that, and I'd say it's pretty half and half. And I do think, actually no, I'd say the majority of people do kind of treat themselves on like a little trip after the summer season, especially if you're younger and seasonal work is more like gap year vibes for you, then like obviously go for it, do whatever you want. But I think for those of us that are in this lifestyle and want to continue being in this lifestyle, we have to be a little bit more thorough when it comes to finances, and like you can't go on an international trip just because it's the shoulder season. When you're talking about like finances and long-term planning, are there people in this industry who can like buy houses or have substantial savings? Like, do you feel like you could go down that path? I think because like people can't even do that with normal jobs now. It's so hard because one, like just the climate that we live in today with buying houses and stuff is crazy, but I think if you're smart and you are saving and not spending everything, and you're filling those shoulder season or off season gaps, I think it's very possible to save up and buy property. But you have to grind. Like, side note too, like our friend Belle is definitely like one of my biggest inspirations when it comes to like this type of work. I kind of saw her do it, and it was really easy to kind of see how she was doing it and get resources and figure that out, and being like, okay, like you can really carve your own path here. And it takes time, and it's specific and unique to the individual, but it's one of the great things I've learned from Belle. It's nice.
Totally. I'm gonna put like a little heart with Belle.
Yeah, perfect.
Wait, so how old are you?
I turned 29 in July, so I'll be 30 in like 6 months.
Right.
Yeah.
We're both Cancer.
Yeah.
So you started this when you were like 26 or 27, like doing
work? I had just turned 27, and I was living in Virginia at the time, where I'm from. And I kind of got trapped there around like COVID time, which full circle, I was supposed to go to Australia back in 2020, But then the world shut down and I couldn't really go. So it's kind of cool, like 4 or 5 years later, like, oh, I'm doing it now. Yeah. It feels very full circle. But I ended up living in Virginia for like 2-ish years. And that was also too, like, I feel like 2020 to 2022 was just kind of weird for everyone, like everyone's shit just like really got blown up a little bit. But I just knew I wanted to get out of Virginia. And then that's how I ended up finding the Deckhand job in Maine and just went for it.
Okay,
and here we are now. Yeah.
What kind of work were you doing before?
Before that, I really thought I wanted to be a teacher for some time. So when COVID happened, I went back to school to do that and ended up dropping out like halfway through getting my associate's degree with that. But I tried multiple different sectors. Like I was working in a preschool at one point, did the camp counselor thing, and then I was a assistant teacher in an elementary school. And it was definitely bringing me joy and fulfillment, but not to the same degree that I knew something else would give me. And I didn't really know what that thing was yet. And I feel like I'm still kind of figuring out what that thing is, but it's a little bit more clear. But basically, just to wrap that up, I have no want to ever really work with children again.
I've also been a teacher.
Yeah.
And I also, like, I love kids, and I loved the kids so much, and, like, my big, like, something I feel guilty about all the time is, like, leaving them once you make those connections with kids, I do also feel that same guilt a little bit. Like, I remember when I was, it was, like, the last day of school, and all the kids are like, oh, like, are you coming back next year? And I'm like, no, guys, like, I'm sorry, you know, but it's what it is. There's something else out there for you. I think that's, like, big because a lot of people, for many different circumstances, like, feel very trapped in their jobs or their path. It's kind of like, what do they call that in relationships? Like sunken time fallacy or something. Like people stay in relationships because they've been in it so long. People it happens for jobs too.
Yeah, people do that a lot with jobs. I have no qualms about quitting jobs ever.
We love quitting.
I don't have that much loyalty to jobs. I mean, like this,
a lot of jobs.
Yeah, the job that I'm getting currently, like I already feel pretty loyal to them, but it's also because they are just offering me a lot of things that I want, and I want to do a really good job. So they have my loyalty a little bit more than.
Like, I'm not going to quit that job.
Yeah. But when it's like a whatever serving job, it's like, who cares? Yeah.
Nobody has loyalty to those jobs. That's why you can like cycle through them.
Exactly.
So, I know. I've taken jobs, like serving jobs from like, I know I'm only going to be here for a few months. But like, it's like, do I tell them or not? My coworker's like, don't tell them. Just take the job and then leave. They're fine.
Yeah, just take the job. I think it's nice. It's nice just being able to give them a little heads up when it's like 2 weeks out, you know?
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do. And even though you could watch this and be like, 27 is so young, you can do anything. Even at 27, a lot of people are like, nope, I'm already like stuck in this. I already went to school. Or did you do an undergraduate degree? You did the associates for a little while.
Yeah.
That's
so
cool,
I have half a degree, is what I say.
Does that ever... Do you feel like that matters at all in seasonal work or the work you want to do? Do people ever care?
I think having a degree is something really good that you can have for sure. And even if it's not applying to what you're doing, like seasonally or just in life in general, I think it just makes you that much more hireable. It shows that you have grit and stamina and that you can see something through, you know? And there are jobs too, like, so with the ultimate goal of wanting to become an expedition guide, a lot of those positions now, they do require you to have like a bachelor's degree in some sort of science of something, you know? So yeah, it's something that I've been kind of playing around with in my head and stuff, but I don't know, I still have no idea what I would really want to go to school for. I've toyed around with the idea of marine biology because I feel like that could really tie in well to the kind of work I want to do. But also like getting your undergrad is intense. It's a whole ordeal.
I can imagine like doing that again right now, like the level of just like this is what I have to do for the sciences, because they purposely make the sciences harder than they need to be sometimes, like to weed people out. Yeah, especially marine bio. With my school that I went to for undergrad was like mainly marine bio school. I even went in thinking I was going to do marine bio, and almost everybody, whether it's because it just doesn't make sense because not everyone can be a marine biologist that goes there, or because the classes are too hard because they do put some really hard classes in there, it definitely weeds people out.
Yeah.
I decided before school even started, they had a presentation that was like, you came here for marine bio. Do you actually want to do marine biology? And I watched it and I was like, oh, no, I don't.
Yeah.
I decided to do ecology instead, which was more relevant for me.
Absolutely.
And I did a lot of marine biology classes.
Sweet. So you still got like your marine fix.
They were just like, you can do this and do everything. And I was like, oh, that's better. But I do think my undergraduate degree, it's funny because everyone's always like, doesn't matter. You don't need them. I do think that you're saying, for better or worse, there is a certain respect that comes with it to some degree.
Absolutely.
Which like probably doesn't need to be that way, but I do think that it is that way sometimes. And I think getting my guiding job in Alaska, I felt kind of underqualified for that, and I hadn't guided in a while when I did that. And I think, among other factors, I think part of it was that I had a degree in ecology and had done ecology research. You think you'd ever do like I see more and more places asking for like a certification in guiding.
Yeah.
Just do that instead.
Yeah, I'm all about certifications right now. Like I've been taking like boat courses, and like I just got this one certification that basically certifies that I could handle like almost any emergency on a boat, you know? So little things like that, or getting your wilderness first responder certification is huge, you know, and it's, I think you can get that for like $1,000, a little less than $1,000, you know, depending on where you do
college. Like some people can take it as a college course, which is really cool. It's like paid for. I took mine at, the first one was like through the University of Tampa, and I wasn't a student there. I was already out of school, but it was cheaper because it was like through their school program.
Interesting.
So it cost a lot less money than like going to some field research station or something.
Nice. Yeah. And then there's also companies like, what is it, Knowles?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they do, like you can get cool certifications and like degrees in like outdoor research and things like that. Or like you can get cool certifications in becoming like an ice glacier guide or like something super niche and random like that, you know. But yeah, I think certifications are where it's at too.
Me too. I think they're really cool. Even when I was in college, I kind of heard about them for the first time. I was like, why didn't I just do like a mess of those, because they are so specific and college felt so broad.
Yes.
It's like you're actually learning a skill when you get a certificate for something. That's the whole point. You're like certified to do the thing.
Absolutely.
So what kind of money can you make, and like what kind of hours? What is the life, and what do you get out of it doing, let's say, like this summer, this kind of deckhand or stewarding? What do you call it?
So the ultimate goal is going on as a deckhand. I still need like 100 days or so of sea time to get my captain's license, and they want me to have my captain's license so I can operate like the little Zodiac boats and do the skiff tours and things like that.
Are those different for large vessel versus small vessel, having your captain's license, or is it all the same?
It's all around the same. There's like different tiers that you can get with your captain's license. So the first one that you can get is like once you have like a little less than 300 days at sea, you can get your 25-ton license, and then like you have your 25-ton license for a bit, and then you get like 600 days of sea time, and then you can get your 50-ton, and then I think it goes up to however big boats can be, I guess. But whatchamacallit, so I will most likely probably be getting on board with this company as like a steward or as a server for the first season, and then I can gain sea time that way, and then summer 2026, if I'm still with them, I'd be able to go on as a deckhand. But as far as like money and hours and stuff are concerned, with this sort of seasonal work, especially, like I think when they say seasonal, it's like you're working the whole season, you know, and some jobs are different than others, but for the most part, getting time off and things like that is not really a thing when it comes to seasonal work, you know, like you can maybe squeeze like a day or two, and that's like if you're giving them like 6 months notice, you know what I mean?
Before I was hired for my one job that I did in Alaska, they said, I was like, I need 3 days off at this one time in the summer, the only time to go to a wedding that I'm in. And they were like, no. They're like, you can't be back within 24 hours. Like, we won't hire you. Yeah. And in retrospect, I'm like, I should have just not told them and then asked like, later for forgiveness, because they wouldn't have hired a new person partway through the season because I was gone for like 72 hours. But it's probably not a good thing to do. But,
No.
But yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard, and like the hours can be pretty intense. You know, you could be working 6-7 days a week, anywhere from 12 plus hours a day.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
But sometimes, like, it depends who you are, I think.
Yeah.
But it's so different. Like, if I had to sit and write or, like, do what I do on a computer,
Right.
I would die doing it that long. But, like, there, it was like, oh, you're doing so many different things. And, like, sometimes you're just sitting on a boat for a few hours. Like, you're not really doing much.
It's weird. It's like you're always working, but you're also always kind of on vacation.
Yeah.
At the same time, like, doing whatever it is that you're doing.
I'm kayaking, but there's strangers with me who I've
before. Exactly, that I have to, like, talk to and, like, make sure they're having a good time.
Whales.
Yeah. Like, I'm getting paid to watch the whales right now. It's great. And yeah, the money can be really good depending on where you're at. So the job that I'll be having pays about $1,000 a week, and it's 6 to 8 weeks on. And you know, you're living on the boat. There's no expenses. I'm not paying rent. I'm getting fed. And then so it's 6 to 8 weeks on, and then 2 to 3 weeks off. So it's like, okay, like $1,000 a week. Like I can save $8,000 in 2 months, you know, and then have a little bit of off time, which will be cool. Not a lot of places kind of operate on that 6 to 8 week on, 2 to 3 week off kind of schedule. So
you can, like, actually see the place you're living, because that was my thing. Like, I didn't go anywhere else in Alaska except for where I was living, because I didn't have any time. Because I was working constantly. So that is kind of cool if you want to explore a place and work there.
Absolutely.
But you spend a little bit of money doing it. So I guess
exactly. Like, the only thing is like, when it's like those 2 or 3 weeks off, it's like, oh yeah, I'll probably be spending a little bit, like, traveling around or
I do bet some people, like, go into the boat yards and try to like fill in for, because like they don't, deckhands don't get sick days, don't get time off, so like filling in for when people really can't come,
absolutely,
I feel like would maybe be a little side grind.
It's something to look into. I even was debating during that off time, like, just reaching out to one of my old server jobs and like do that and just work like a normal amount during that time and like still rake in some cash and whatnot. But yeah, no, the money can be really good. It is very, there's a big ebb and flow to it, because it's like, you're making a lot of money in the summertime, and depending on what you're doing in the winter, 9 times out of 10, you're not making as much in the wintertime as you would be in the summer. So you do kind of have to be mindful of that and make smart financial choices and whatnot, and hope that you can still save with that, and then like, the next summer season, like, you still have your savings from there, and you just keep building on top of that.
And it can be hard to like plan, because guiding and serving, like, tips are so variable. Like, sometimes I would get tipped, you know, the structure of where I worked was like, you have the same guest for 3 days, and then you guest like every 3 days, and sometimes at the end of those 3 days they tip me like $500, and I was like, damn. And sometimes they would tip like just into the tip pool of all staff, which is great. Right. But I would not get as much from it. Yeah. And I, you know, you just like can't predict that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
And I guess you just have to plan like you're not getting it.
Yeah.
But that became a big thing. I mean, I made the 4 months I was working in Alaska, I think I made $35K.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think it was something like that, like before taxes.
Yeah, and you were just working for like all day, every day.
Yeah, we didn't have, I mean, they paid, they had all our food and housing, and you couldn't really go anywhere unless you like paid for the water taxi. So if you did want to go into town, it was a cost, and if you decided not to, like, I usually stayed back. I think I went to that festival.
Yeah, Salmon Fest.
Yeah, Salmon Fest.
Yeah, we love Salmon Fest.
That was insane, like the timing to do that, and like getting but I shared the water taxi with people and stuff, so it was fine. But cool. Yeah, just like different ways of doing it. Some people who didn't have guiding jobs, you know, or like housekeeping and stuff, like they never got to leave where we were ever, so they'd be like, please can I go on the trash run, or
yeah, absolutely.
So it depends, but I do feel like that one was kind of lucky. I don't see like on Coolworks as many things advertised that pay quite as much as that place did.
I
don't know, but I feel like they're out there. I just don't know where they're advertising, or if it's more like word of mouth, because I did think that while working, a lot of people were like, every time I've done a seasonal job, everyone was like, oh, you should work here, here, here. And it was like things I don't see posted. It was just kind of word of mouth, and like they could get you in. So it's like talking about getting your foot in the door, it's like once you start these jobs, kind of like snowballs from there.
Absolutely. And then like you network and you meet all sorts of people and stuff. Like I like one of the courses I took, like a boat course back in September, like, you know, just met a lot of other people trying to do similar things that I'm doing, but just in different places. So like I have a good friend now, a colleague, I guess I could say, in Florida, and she just got like a deckhand job working on a private yacht, and now she's just like in the Bahamas doing it up. But like she got that job just by walking the docks and doing it, you know. So the internet and, you know, resources like Coolworks or like Bag of Jobs, you know, can be really good, but I think a lot of it is surrounding yourself around people that have similar interests to you and are also doing those things, and then those resources can help you get your foot in the door a lot better.
Totally. Yeah, just like getting out there, which is scary and hard if you've never done anything like that, like financially and otherwise.
Absolutely. But it can be scary, like starting over and not knowing what it's going to look like. But I feel like it's better than the alternative, which is feeling stuck and unhappy and or depressed somewhere else in your life. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I guess so. Do you ever, do you have health insurance? Like
no.
Yeah.
That's like, I feel like some seasonal jobs will offer you health insurance, depending. I think, too, maybe if you're more, it kind of depends on how long you've been with your company as well and kind of what your role is with that. But I feel like most of the time when it's just like, oh, you're hired for the season, that's that. Like, you're not getting health insurance at all. A nice little hack you can do is just get traveler's insurance.
Right. That's what I did.
And just say you're traveling around the country and stuff. And it's not going to be good for like, you know, like an urgent care visit or anything, but it's good like catastrophic insurance. Yeah.
I think that a lot of jobs say you have to have something sort of like that.
Oh,
you
interesting.
Know? I've seen that. Like we don't provide insurance, but and you know they could be responsible for certain things. But yeah, like if you are in your own time and get hurt too, because you might be doing all sorts of adventurous recreating.
Absolutely,
and they have specific one. Like travel insurance is more likely to have like you know very risky things that you can check off because a lot of stuff's not covered by health insurance anyway because it's like you are putting yourself at risk.
Yeah,
so
that's good.
Those
and
are good
travel insurance, it's like $100 for like 6 months or something like that, and you're covered like up to $1 gazillion, something like that. Yeah,
exactly. So like I think those work if you're not someone who needs like regular medical care or whatever. So, I mean, a lot of people with normal or jobs too also don't have health insurance. Like it's just like we don't even get into it, but obviously a larger issue.
Absolutely.
One that seasonal workers also deal with, I would say. You've obviously chosen this work lifestyle where you don't always know what's next and like there's more variability. You know, you're not just like looking 3 years ahead at the same job.
Yeah.
Is that good for your mental health or like how do you think that's been?
That's a great question. And the best way I can answer it is, so I feel like I do love it when like, you know, there's a lot of moving pieces and things are in the air and it's the unknown. But at the same time, I think all of us do crave stability and routine, you know, and I feel like I'll have that stability and routine for a bit, and then it's like, okay, now I'm craving like excitement and adventure, and then I'll have like excitement and adventure, and that's like, okay, I'm ready for routine and stability again, you know. But yeah, actually, just to answer your question, I do think it's good for my mental health. I think it keeps me on my toes. I think it is challenging for me, and also it challenges me. I actually find that starting over and like going on a crazy adventure, it's actually pretty easy for me to do, you know.
It's wrong with that.
It's like a little too easy. Yeah. I'm like, okay. And I think too, something that I have like sort of been battling with is so my go-to is running away from my problems. You know, like I love the idea of like leaving my problems in one state and like going somewhere else and it's like clean slate. And I've recently learned over the past couple of years that it doesn't work like that. And your problems will follow you wherever you go, you know, and you are where you are, is what a therapist told me once. These days, it feels more of a running towards something and not like a running away from something. And it's probably been like one of my bigger takeaways from this year is like kind of being in that state of mind. It's really nice. And right now, like I'm feeling pretty good these days, and it's almost, I don't know if you could relate to this, but it's almost kind of scary when things are good because you're like, okay, how much more up can we go from here before things inevitably take a toll again, you know?
That like scary thing where you're like, things are going well.
Like too well,
right?
Yeah.
No, that is good. Yeah, I think a lot of people have that voice in the back of their head that I guess, but I do like the idea of like running towards the good thing. Like just
Exactly.
as long as, you know, the older we get, we're always moving towards something. It can change, can be whatever. Just like that feeling of going for something is good. I feel like this project is like the first time I've felt that in a while.
Cool.
Like, I don't know what'll come of it or whatever, but at least it's like fun to be like, I'm doing a thing I said I was going to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's really nice. Seeing things through, I think is really good for mental health and just making yourself grow into the version of yourself that you want to be, you know?
We're trying.
I think we're doing great.
On that note, do you feel like, I don't know if like the general public thinks this or not, but I think seasonal work, sometimes people think it's like unhinged or like people who are running away from their problems or like unstable. What do you feel like the community of seasonal work is? And I'm sure it varies where you are.
Yeah, I think it definitely varies on where you are. And it definitely does attract like a younger crowd. You know, I feel like a lot of my seasonal work experiences have been a lot of people, like it's the summer and they're just saving money for college or something. So it's a lot of people in their younger 20s and whatnot. But that's great. You know, I feel like age doesn't really matter when it comes to friendships. It's like, oh, you're cool. I'm cool. Great. Like, you know, but I think the overall community, it can be a little bit unhinged because, you know, not everyone is attracted to this type of work or this type of lifestyle, you know, so, and maybe unhinged isn't the best word, but it definitely attracts an intense, like, type of person, you know what I mean? And sometimes when you have a lot of intense personalities in a room, and when you guys are all working together all day, every day, it can make those interpersonal relationships challenging, you know? But in my experience, it's been pretty good. And I feel like I've been able to form some really good friendships and relationships over the years with people like that. And yeah.
It's double-sided because it attracts like extreme people, sure, or like untraditional people or whatever that might be slightly more positioned to be a little... I don't even know if people are more unhinged because people are. I know people in normal life that are unhinged. Right, so like it's certainly not limited to that. Exactly. It's just like that you're living in such close quarters and like things just come out eventually. Like you can see people are working so intensely so they crack like and you're there for it.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I do think that, and also like, you know, people get in relationships, people get pregnant, like people get a little crazy with that when they're like kept in small spaces with limited people. So that gets a little crazy.
There is definitely well, like, and especially with Alaska too, and with seasonal work, Alaska. the like summer like mania like that happens. It's a lot of fun, but it is like kind of crazy, you know what I mean? Especially too when you have like, you know, the super extensive daylight and like you woke up at 6 a.m. and now it's like 10 p.m. and the sun is still out and like you just got off work and now like you're going out to the bar till 2 a.m. and like the sun is still kind of out and then you got 3 hours of sleep and you're doing it all over the next day and you're like fine somehow because you just have weird. All the energy, you know what I mean? It's absolutely insane, but
it is a really cool thing to experience, and it is very real that like you just need less sleep when it's light out all the time. For a short period of time at least.
Absolutely, but, it's not sustainable for long periods of time, but it's a good time.
Thing to experience. But it does. I mean, I do think seasonal work brings about like a little bit crazier side, but I also like even at the place I worked, like I've talked to them years after, and they were like, like. That year was more fun. Like the people were, you know, got together more, like partied a little bit more. And then other years, like a good portion of the staff is older and like not, you know, they'll drink or whatever. They're not super keen on like being crazy or anything. And they're just like, it was very chill this year. Nobody really partied. Like it was, you know, like I think that there's, it's hard to predict, and it's hard when I like people ask me like, was this a good place to work or this a good place to work or something, you know? It's like, it can be there's obvious management things, but it can be hard to say like it was so good because of the people that were there with me that year, and you have no idea what the group's going to be like
I don't know what that looks like for you and how, you know, your sort of interrelationship skills will work with whatever group you're in. That is a good point. It is really hard to kind of predict those things, and I think you like anytime I'm going into like a new job and like with seasonal work and especially being on the boats, because like we're on a boat, like we're here, guys, you know. And I do think companies, and I think better companies are more selective and like think about that, you know what I mean? And like think about the dynamics of the boat and whatnot and what that's going to look like for the summer. And I think a little bit of thought goes into that. But I also think like some management, they don't think about those things. And it's just this like random lottery of people that you're about to be with for the next 4 or 5 months, and fingers crossed that you like them. You know, my first job, Deckhand job in Alaska, I actually didn't really get along with a lot of the other staff. Everyone was from this like random college in like Louisiana. Like they kind of formed their own clique down there, and then they all go to Alaska for the summers and stuff. Everyone was like a lot younger than me. I was like really the only gay person. This was also in Whittier, Alaska, which is a really weird, small little town, you know? Yeah, it's like you want to lean on the people that you're working with for emotional support, but if you can't, like, you kind of have to figure that out for yourself, and that looks different for everyone, I think. But yeah, it is a weird gamble with stuff like that.
And that can be so hard. I mean, I have my own experiences and opinions about not just seasonal work, but like the outdoor industry and like how male dominated it can be, not even in like representation, but just like in
absolutely
the like fucking beta narb, whatever, you know, like I don't know, just like the words people use blew my mind like when I was there. And just like the hyper masculinity of the outdoors and like being a guide and being young or a woman or person of color, probably like whatever it is that makes people not trust you with their life or whatever it is, you're just taking them kayaking or something, or like like sometimes you're dealing with really wealthy clients, and not that wealthy people are bad or anything, but like just different demographics that have different levels of entitlement and will just say out of pocket. What has been your experience?
So I feel, me personally, I feel like who I am at like my core, like I'm not super flamboyantly gay, you know? I feel like, you know, once you get to know me a little bit, it's like, oh yeah, for sure he's gay, you know? But like a
straight like person who doesn't think about gay people
exactly
isn't gonna like
exactly jump on it. It's like not like an assumption, which, you know, and I think that probably stems from me like growing up in a southern region of the US, you know what I mean? And like maybe didn't feel super safe to be like extra flamboyant or feminine, you know, or just gay in general. But I think so. As far as with like coworkers and management and that stuff, I have like I don't think there's really any qualms for queer people these days. Obviously, depends on what you're doing, but it can be like very intimidating. For me, one, just I struggle with male friendships and male relationships in general. And I think it's, you know, it's definitely like a weird sensitive ego thing that I have going on where I'm like, oh, like they're alpha and like I'm not. And it's like, ugh, you know, but a lot of those things too are also all in my head. Like, I don't think they're actually intentionally trying to make me feel that way. And if they are, then they suck. But, they might be. But I'll choose to believe the latter. So I think for the most part, that's cool. And then as far as being queer with, you know, coworkers and being in that community, can be hard because one, seasonal work, it can be very isolating. You know what I mean? Like, I was living in Whittier, or like where you were living and guiding in Alaska, like you really just have the people that you're working with, you know, and it doesn't create a whole lot of time and space to make meaningful relationships outside of work, and or just friendships in general. And that can be a little difficult. And also depending on where you are, like, you know, Alaska, I feel like is overall pretty progressive, you know, but like, you know, there's a lot of people there who are not progressive and are very conservative, you know, and it's not the safest place to be loud and proud about like LGBT and being queer and whatnot. I remember when I was working on the boat in Alaska, there was one captain who was just wildly inappropriate and grim, and like I hated the way that he talked to me, my female colleagues especially. It was gross, and we were all scared to say something, you know what I mean? Because it's the middle of the summer, like we haven't like all quite hit our savings goal. It's really hard to find a new job in the middle of a season, you know? And so nothing ever really got done about it. And yeah, it does kind of suck with that. But I feel like every job kind of has its things, you know what I mean? Like, even if you're just like waiting tables somewhere, it's just like, ugh. Like, so you're like, your boss is always just gonna suck a little bit because they're your boss.
It is really hard. And I do feel like at least like, I think it draws, at least places I work, such different communities. Like I've worked with cowboys, I've worked with people from the military, like I worked from very traditional backgrounds, but because they're doing this kind of work, and maybe this is just like, you shouldn't judge people, maybe people are more open-minded than you think just generally, you know, but like most of the like seemingly very traditional, maybe like conservative men that I've worked with have been very open to, you know, they're not always going to say the right thing the right way, and like that's totally fine, but they're like open to conversation, and like
receptive to feedback,
and they don't want to like be an asshole.
Exactly. Like we actually don't say those words anymore. There's definitely a lot of that, but so I don't know, you don't want to have to tell anybody that like they have to be comfortable with that, because like you should be comfortable with that anywhere, but yeah, like some places more so than others. But I've also worked like the lodge that I worked at, like our cafe has like has a queer flag outside, like everybody who works there pretty much is queer, and like for being in Alaska, it's pretty cool. Absolutely. Like there's definitely pockets of really great accepting people, so it's hard though, finding the right fit, and it's hard to more so like advise somebody, because you don't want to give somebody the wrong advice. Like, it was great for me, and then have them have a horrible experience. Exactly, and then they just have a bunch of resentment towards you.
But that's what you said. Like just going and walking the docks and getting a job, definitely something certain people can do easier than others, and more safely than others. So.
Absolutely, but just to kind of answer your question, there is a crazy like influx or spectrum with how much money you can make specifically with deckhanding. Like the sailboat job I had in Maine, it was actually like kind of ridiculous how much we got paid. It was I think we got $150 a week, but we were living on the sailboat, essentially kind of like glamping at the sea kind of vibe. And we were being fed, and like we didn't have to pay for housing or anything like that. And we would have anywhere about 15 to 20 guests on the boat, and like they would all tip probably around $100-$200 each, and then that got split between the rest of the crew. So it was crazy though, like $150 a week, but I was working 7 days a week, like over 12 hours a day. So like when we like broke it down hourly, we were like, we're getting like $3 an hour from like the captains.
That's the hard part.
But the tips were really good, and I was making roughly around like $1,000 a week just like in tips.
And the fact that you're not paying for life, like you're not paying a car payment,
exactly,
you're not paying for rent, you're not paying food like that. It's really hard to explain to people that, like, I know it doesn't look like that much money, but like you're not paying for anything, it feels like a lot.
Yeah, and you can really just save like 90% of that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a huge difference, and it's hard to, people look at a job and they're like, $17 an hour, like, I can't live off that, I'm not going to do that job. It's like, but do it right.
Yeah, exactly.
And they pay for housing and food, then, like, you could walk out of there, with thousands, tens of thousands of dollars saved out there a season, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I guess, like, who do you think would be good for this life if they haven't gathered that by this point? Like, who's not good for this life?
I think someone that would be good for, like, this sort of life, or someone's contemplating it. I think if you feel that you have a pretty strong work ethic, then this type of work and lifestyle can be for you. If you have a good amount of grit and stamina and a willingness to learn and challenge and grow into the version of yourself that you want to become, if all of those are things that you feel like you align yourself with, then I think this type of life would work out really well for you. And if you're someone who like needs to know everything that's happening all the time, maybe not so much. Has this sort of lifestyle ever not worked for me? And oh yes, it has definitely not worked at certain times. It's kind of more to advice for someone, like, if you are getting into it, just know that there will be points where it's not glamorous and it's not fun, and sometimes you have to get like a weird housekeeping job or a weird retail job just to like get by for a little bit. But it's important to know too that like you are not your job. You know, you're much more than that. Like work is just work. Obviously, if you find something that like aligns with you and like your core and it feels authentic, like run towards that. But yeah, so yeah, sometimes it's not working, but that's also just life. You know what I mean?
People lose jobs, people get laid off.
Absolutely.
Like, you have to do things. What's the like most random thing you've done to get by as a job?
It's like a sign holder. Ones for like H&R Block.
Like
yeah.
Is there something else you could see yourself doing?
Ooh, that's a great question. I don't know. Wow, that's a really good question.
Well, it's kind of beautiful that like you're so focused on your thing that you don't even think, because I can think of like 12 other lifestyles I fantasize about. So like the fact that you're not immediately, I feel like is a very good sign.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you for saying that, because that even just ran through my mind as well.
Would you say you're happy?
Yeah. I
seem happy.
Thanks.
Because like we hung out like a year ago, and neither of us were happy.
We were not happy. I really thought I can't remember. I think talking to Kai or something, but it was like after I first met you in Portland around a year ago. I was like, I don't think this Roxy chick likes me a whole lot. I was like, and like,
you were great.
Thank you. You were great as well. But it is nice too. Yeah, we were both like very depressed at the time, and it was weird. And it was cool linking up with you and Ben like less than a year later. You know,
transformational.
So for both of us. You know what I mean? And it's cool. It's nice to be able to get to know the real Roxy. Yeah.
Yeah, very inspiring.
Yeah.
Do you think that you'll do seasonal work forever? Like, is this your career path?
It's just so hard to say forever.
I know,
you know what I mean?
I told you I don't do that. For the first, you don't have a plan to transition out of it.
Not for the next like 5 to 10 years. Right now, like what I can envision, sort of my 30s and like the next decade looking like it's still doing deckhand things. Maybe even like owning a boat or a sailboat or something by the time I'm like 35, 36. I'm also getting a German passport in like a month.
Right, yeah.
So I have like a lot of things floating in the air right now. I think I'm about to enter like a really cool international era in the next like year or two.
If you did want to go back to school, doing it in Germany
exactly,
would make sense.
Exactly. So yeah, the next decade is still just going to be a lot of bopping around, making good money, and just curating my own specific path. And I have a good idea of what that looks like, but there's still a lot of space for unknown and exciting things to happen with that as well.
Always pivot.
Yeah, it can always pivot. Yeah, you can always start over. It's never too late to start over, and it's amazing.
I love starting over.
I love it. Yeah, it's so much fun.
Too much, actually.
Yeah, like clean slate, like moving to a new place, like I just moved to Seattle, and it's like one of the bigger cities that I've ever lived in, you know, and I'm like, and people are always like, oh my god, like, do you know anyone there? And I'm like, no, but that's I'm gonna like meet people, and it's gonna be great.
Do you ever think of quitting? Obviously you quit jobs all the time.
Like
this lifestyle, I guess.
This lifestyle, no, I don't think so. I can see myself like doing this for a while, and the ultimate goal too is, you know, kind of like if all works out with like this company, you know, then just grow as much as possible with them. But ultimate goal there would be like, you know, having a really great summer job and like a really great winter job, and then like traveling during the shoulder seasons and stuff. But still, like the gaps are filled, and like money's somewhat constant, you know, become the main goal there. Yeah. But I don't know. It's also hard to say too. Like, you never know if like a man comes into my life or anything like that. Like, you know, if I
change it.
Exactly. Yeah. So, you know, obviously if something like that were to happen, then, you know, I might have to like make compromises or whatever and do that. But
or just be drawn towards different things.
Exactly. You know how everything in life is a trade-off. You know, you can have this, but you can't have that, and the grass is always going to be a little greener on the other side. But for me, one of the trade-offs for this kind of life is, yeah, I don't really date a whole lot, you know what I mean? And I do kind of crave that like intimacy and that partnership and that support, you know? Like it sounds really nice. But at the same time, I'm just having way too much fun bopping around and traveling and like living on boats and like doing what I want to do. And I was just talking with my friend Kayla about, you know, this type of life that I'm living in, my lifestyle choices and stuff, and how dating is hard and it's something I want, but I don't see how it fits in to what I'm doing right now. And she said she's a big proponent of just follow your dreams and you'll meet someone along the way who fits in. But, and also too, it depends on where you are and like what you're doing seasonally. Like me, I've just, and like I'm gay, you know, so it's like just living in places where there's not a strong gay community, and I'm just living on a boat with like the same 5 people for 5 or 6
like,
months,
right,
you know.
Isn't about romance.
Exactly.
Season of romance.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, living in a city definitely gives you a little more. But also you're traveling, so like yeah, you never know whose path you're gonna cross.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool. Okay, last thing from you. Do you have a piece of life advice that you'd like to offer someone who's maybe going into seasonal work or just in general?
Right now, the best advice I could give to anyone is there's no rules. Like, you can really do whatever it is that you want. And it's really just about shedding those layers. I think my friend Kaya said it in a good way, where we're all a mixture of who we were conditioned to be and who we want to be. And I think the sooner you can realize that and then just run in the direction of the person that you want to be, is going to help you out a lot in life when it comes to what you want, your choices and things. And it really gets rid of like the excess noise, you know, because like there's even still times where like I'm like making choices or like getting like want a tattoo or something, and I'm like, oh my god, like what's my mom gonna think? And it's like, no, I'm like almost 30 years old, like she actually doesn't get a say in any of these choices, you know what I mean? And so yeah, and just realizing that like it's all you at the end of the day, and it's just you. You know, like you might have a partner that like can support you and stuff, and that's great, but like it's you in your mind, in your body, in your life, and you have to really put yourself in the driver's seat if you want to be happy.